Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Radical! Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join the gnarly Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the totally tubular tools, advice, and strategies you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now on to this week's Totally Tubular show.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast. I am your host, Travis Ross, and Josiah is actually not here. He is, I think, on a plane right now, actually, and he'll be back tonight. If you listened last week, he was traveling to Sweden, and if you follow his Instagram, he posted some pretty amazing pictures while he was over there. Had a good time with his wife, and he's coming back. So I am flying solo today, and we all know that when Travis flies solo, maybe the show doesn't go quite as well because Josiah pushes all the buttons. That's his job, and he does a really good job of it. But I do have something kind of cool. I was actually at a friend's house last night. We were doing a fire night, kind of a church thing. Bunch of guys from the church were over at a guy's house and having some really great discussions around a couple of campfires. And I saw this buddy of mine that I've known for quite a while, and he's a graphic artist and a really, really smart when it comes to like all things graphic. Is that a thing? I don't know. But I said, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Andy Zenz. Andy is a brand strategist. He's run his own business, Robots Love Balloons, for the last 15 years. He specializes in logo and packaging design with a focus on building a broad brand package of assets that carries and supports the full brand experience. He's a creative problem solver at heart and loves the strategy and creativity that comes from engaging other people's problems. So let's welcome to the show, Andy Zenz. Andy, how you doing, man?
Good. It's good to be here. It's fun that it all came together within, I don't know,
less than 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad you said yes, or otherwise, I would be talking to myself or by myself. But yeah, we had a nice little pre-interview, I guess, and we talked through some of the questions, and I think we've got some cool things on the docket here. So, but before we do that, I warned you before you came on that every time we have a guest, they have to come prepared with a dad joke. So with that, let's cue the bumper.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
Yes, that was something dropped on me last minute. But I feel like I've been telling dad jokes longer than I've been a dad, but I've been a dad for 18 years. But this is a class. This goes back to when my camp counseling days, actually. But it's a good table one. So it has props. So it's a salt and pepper shaker.
Okay.
And it's 3 parts. So you can just be on the table and you can just be like, hey, what's this, guys? and then you just go do 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 do. Oh wait, no wait, it goes this one. This is assault. He's like, oof, oh, are you all right? Are you all right? Do you know what that is?
Assault.
This is Dr. Pepper. This is
Dr.
Dr.
Pepper. Okay.
Yeah. What is this?
I don't know.
Changing of the seasons.
Changing of the seasons. Okay.
And then
you got one more.
Is another prop. It's like What is that?
That's the assault, right?
Assault with a deadly weapon. Yes.
Assault with the deadly weapon. Okay. I'm loving that. That gets Michael Scott. All right. Okay. So for your Print on Demand cast, weekly dad joke, I was just reminiscing and, just thinking about my grandfather and thinking about, I have a pretty big birthday coming up this year. And, you start thinking about, I'm probably closer to the end than I am to the beginning. And so I was just thinking, when I die, I really want to go peacefully in my sleep, like my grandfather, not kicking and screaming like the passengers in his car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I
didn't still joking. I was
that was
yes.
Oh, no. And I still remember the last thing my dad said before kicking the bucket. He said, "Son, watch how far I can kick this bucket." So yeah. There you go. Those are that's it, guys. That's all I got. It's way funnier, I think, when Josiah's here. He pushes the buttons better than I do. So that's just
laughing here.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's terrible.
Oh, well. All right. So let's get into some actual print on demand stuff, some interview stuff, some good questions and such. So first of all, before we get into it, you have a company, Robots Love Balloons.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to hear kind of your story of how you got into that company, how you started it, your graphic story. Since you're not necessarily into print on demand, we usually have people tell their print on demand story, but just tell us your graphic design story and a little bit about yourself.
I've dabbled with print on demand, I should say, I confess, and I would still like to do more. I'd like to do more than dabbling, for whatever that's worth. But yeah, I'm a brand strategist, and
you've come to the right place, my friend.
Yeah. All right. I'm a brand strategist focused on logo, package design, and I've kind of done that. I was a fine art major in college, but I'm pretty much self-taught in the computer graphics world. So my college was just starting the program a little late when I was in school, like in the late 90s. So, so I'm self-taught in that, but I love branding and logo design and all that stuff. And so I've been doing that for over 15 years. Robots Love Balloons is my company name. People ask, where'd you get that name from? And it was actually, I just wanted something that was memorable and didn't have my name in it and didn't say design in it or studio or something like that. And my 9-year-old niece at the time titled one of her pictures, Robots Love Balloons. And I'm like, can I use that for my business? And so I've been using it ever since. So,
nice.
Yeah. So I love working with other people, and really, the thing that I love about graphic design is there's a problem solving kind of aspect to it. And so I would say I'm not a real artist. I kind of confess that I'm not a real artist. I can paint, I can do photography, I can draw and do all those things, but my creative juices sometimes don't necessarily flow independently. Like I feel like real artists just have ideas all the time, and they just need a way and an avenue to get it out and create. My creativity kind of starts going when I hear other people's problems, whatever it might be, So like I've done murals in the past, and it's like other people just have ideas for murals, but I need somebody else's, like, hey, we have this space, here's a theme we're thinking, or this is what the people.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that I love, is problem solving actually gets my creative juices flowing. So
Cool. Yeah. And we actually have, I was trying to pull this up. We actually really got to know each other when you were helping me with a particular problem, I guess. We were coming up with some package design for a private label product. We did a burrito wrap. And the reason we did a burrito wrap is because burrito blanket was trademarked and copywritten. So let me see if I can pull these up here. And you guys can see them if you're watching on YouTube. Nope, it doesn't look like it's going to let me do that. Again, I am not Josiah. But they came out really, really cool. They look like a Chipotle box. We had kind of the wrapper on the bottom, and they had a really fun nutritional facts thing on the back that was kind of funny. 100% polyester, 0% corn, 0% flour, and most of this was, Andy, it was your kind of going back and forth with me and like, hey, what if we did this? What if we did this? And it was a fun process. So yeah. So
what I remember is
what do you remember about that?
What I remember is you were able to sell the same product that other people were selling at almost 2, if not 3 times the price, simply because it came in a package and in a creative package. And so it went from just being this item blanket by itself to being like a giftable, thing that's all inclusive. And so it was really cool how putting a little bit of thought into the design process and the packaging really made it a stronger product. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about print on demand. You said you've dabbled in like some merch, you've made some merch and some things like that, but you haven't really jumped in the print on demand game. So if at any time this goes too far, you can just say, you know what, I don't know about that, but here's what I do know, and that's totally fine. So when designing specifically for print on demand, or if you had to design specifically for print on demand, how do you approach creating your art that's going to look good on like t-shirts, mugs, posters, all of these different things? Is that even a thing for a graphic designer? Are you okay making something that you're planning on putting on all kinds of different things, or are there going to be some like minor corrections or different, kind of the way you see something is specific to a specific product, or can it go multi-products in your experience?
I think there are some things that could apply to different, objects, whether it's a t-shirt, a mug, a print, things like that. I think like when I'm building a brand for somebody, I think, and then when we have a brand and then you move into merch, I think the tendency or the downfall that people make is they're like, okay, like a school, for instance, they have a mascot and then they just put it on everything. Put the same logo on a hat. I put the same logo on a sweatshirt, same logo on a t-shirt, on a lanyard, and there's no creativity throughout those. So when I'm building a brand, I'm trying to create items that don't look like repeats. And so the beauty of print on demand, I think, is you can create a graphic or some slogan, and you can put it on a mug and you can put it on a t-shirt, and you can let people decide what they want, where they want to represent that thing. When it comes to building, and so, I think this topic will go throughout today. When it comes to building a branded concept that I think eventually a lot of print on demand people want to do is you want to start thinking about things differently. Like, how would this design look on a t-shirt versus a mug, right? A t-shirt is usually just forward facing, a mug is round. So how do we take that one design that maybe has just an image on the front, and on a mug, how do we make it so that it kind of wraps around? That would be one way. Just how do you take that design just a little bit further and take advantage of the object that it's on? So I think putting some creative thought into just adjusting your thing a little bit for the different things will take your print on demand products to a higher level that I don't think many people are thinking about.
Yeah. I mean, in my experience, I have done kind of, I'm going to put this design on this, and this, as many products as I can get it on, because, it's, our strategy has always been, a mile wide and an inch deep. I can see the benefit of that, really thinking through each individual product, from a brand perspective. I think that's super important, because it really can separate you from, like you said, the brand that just puts their logo on everything, and that's the extent of their creativity. There's a
Right.
lot more you can do with, a really, a really nice Nike logo. I mean, they've done a ton of different things with their Nike logo. It's not, I mean, yeah, they might put it on everything, but it's not just the logo. There's a lot more
Right.
to it than that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, I mean, I've done some mascots over the years, and, like, all the T-shirts, maybe they'd be different colors, but they would be one design, and then the long
Mm.
sleeve T-shirt was a totally different design, still had the mascot a little bit, but
Mhm.
a different version of it, and then the sweatshirts were something different, and so when you're trying to sell, I mean, that way you get people walking out with potentially a T-shirt, a sweatshirt, and a long sleeve, because they're all different,
Mm.
they're all different colors, and you're buying,
Yeah.
and they're not just like repeated things. So,
Yeah. No, that's good. Getting that, average cart value up,
right.
that's smart. That's really smart. Um, let's stay on the design process, kind of for a minute. And can you just walk us through how your design process works, when you kind of have a clear vision on what you want to design? What does that look like? What do you do from there?
Mm. Um, uh, it is a lot related to how it's going to be used. I I prefer working on my iPad for, these days, over clicking with a mouse.
Hmm.
But those don't always translate easily to print on demand. You usually have to, outline your graphic, because it's, bit pixels in
Hmm.
Procreate, and then you have to move it to vector, or whatever, graphics for, print on demand. But it's a lot of exploring. Like, I have a sketchbook that I just explore ideas, really. So sometimes I don't know what I want to do, and so it starts in my sketchbook always. It's like I have a phrase or an idea, a theme, and then I just sketch and sketch and sketch until I get a good idea that I feel like could work in a design. When I do merch, again, it's like, how do I love pushing the limits of expectations, of like everything fitting just within a short little thing. I like to create, I've done merch where the main object is here, and then just something is up, over, off to the side, just to just draw your attention. Just, it almost feels like it's breaking out of some box. It's all
Mm.
within the printable space that print on
Yeah.
demand can do. But if you kind of, use your space creatively, it's just like, ooh, it almost
Mm.
looks like an extra print, like, oh, did you pay extra to get over here? No, that's all still within the, you know,
Mhm.
the printable space. So it's fun to just always see how you can push the limits of, your canvas of whatever you're printing on or whatever you're working towards. So
Yeah.
I'm always like, that's my biggest thing, is like, how do I push the limits? How do I make it
Mm.
interesting?
So it doesn't sound like you have like, a one size fits all process for creating. It's your creativity is creative in its expression. It seems like.
Yeah, it seems to be that way. It's like, yeah, it's whatever we're designing, and that's where graphic design or brand, maybe even I need some more specific branding, or
Mhm.
what, because you're trying to create things that are creating a feeling, emotion. I mean, you can do that in graphic design, whatever, but yeah, it's like, to what end am I designing? Is it for a t-shirt, or is it for packaging? Is it
Yeah.
for a billboard, or is it for a little icon that's going to go on the corner somewhere? So you really have to, it's really based on wherever. So that's where maybe I'm a little different than another
Sure.
artist or whatever, something like that. So.
Sure. So, what are some like mistakes that you see people make when they're creating art for specifically for print on demand? Like, for instance, you're walking through the mall or, down Pearl Street or something, and you see somebody that they've got a t-shirt on and it just makes you cringe. Why are you cringing when you see that? Like, what are some of the things that you're like, oh man, that could have been so much better if they had only what?
One thing that a lot of people don't think about with their designs, and I cringe and consistently on, is a design is often created usually either on like a white background or a white piece of paper with a dark marker or dark graphics, right? And then they put it on a dark t-shirt and then they just reverse it. And so
Right.
and the reverse doesn't always work. Like something that was made for a white background with dark text, usually like words and stuff like that, that's fine. But it moves into like anything that might have eyes or like face, like some of these graphics where it's an animal or something like that. If you take it and you reverse it, then all of a sudden the pupils are usually white, and then the whites of the eyes are black, for instance, like, and it just looks like a negative, thing. And it's just like, I hate when people don't put any thought into like, oh, this is going to be reversed and they're going to have to adjust the graphic to accommodate. Or if they don't have the time to do that, just figure out how to put it on you don't have to put it on a white t-shirt, but just put it on a dark print on a lighter t-shirt, is a simple way. And so those always make me cringe, is when they haven't put any thought into the reversing of a graphic. So yeah, that's one. And then
anything else? Yeah.
Yeah. What were you going to say to that? Did you have?
I was just going to ask if you have any other ones like that.
Just just the lack of creativity in just simply, it's either black on light shirts or white on dark shirts. It doesn't make me cringe, but when if you're wanting to build a good design, I feel like just put a little thought into it. If you're going to put it on a blue shirt, it doesn't have to be a white print. Why don't you use like a light blue on a dark blue shirt, and all of a sudden it's not, it's just, there's a little bit more interest to it. There's just a little bit more theme. And then if you're going to change the shirt and put it on, so I think most people could put a little bit more thought into not just simply using black on light shirts and white on dark shirts, like do tonal stuff, would be a thing.
And then the other thing we talk a lot about here is you don't have to use every color of t-shirt. You can design for a specific color. Like if it looks good on brown, just do a brown shirt. You don't have to do green and red and blue and all these other colors.
Well, that actually so just because you can, that's like the canvas, like the t-shirt colors, right? Like don't do all the t-shirts, because not all of them are it's not going to look the same. But also the beauty of print on demand is you can use your color palette is endless. There, like when you print like screen printing, you pay per color usually, right?
Right. So,
per run, and so you're usually limiting it, and and our eyes and our appreciation has actually kind of gotten used to seeing graphics, because most t-shirts have limited, when there was all screen printing, had limited color palettes because of the limitation of colors. And so we're kind of used to that, and we actually kind of like that. And so the colors are limitless in print on demand, because you're just paying for the print. You're not paying for the amount of colors. But just because you can use every color in the rainbow doesn't mean you should. So still consider how to make limited color palettes, of your designs. I think having one or two colors, or like 2 or 3 colors max is ideal. And like, how do they complement each other, and how do they look?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to only print on like earth tone shirts,
Mhm.
if you're going to use those printed colors, right? For instance. So
Yeah,
you can
I don't know.
into things, and I don't think a lot of print on demand people are necessarily thinking to that level of how do I create
Yeah.
something special.
Yeah, I think I am confident that there are tons and tons of websites out there that will give you color palettes. Hey, here's if you want to have your canvas be light blue, here are 2 colors that'll go with it. Here are 3 colors that'll go. Here are 4 colors that'll all go with that. And you can use some of that in your creative expression. I don't know. Do you have, just off the top of your head, I know this isn't in the questions or anything. Do you have like websites that you go to, or is that kind of a learned thing that you've learned after, being so 15 years plus in the industry?
There's Adobe. I think it used to be Cooler with a K,
Hmm.
but it's now, I think, Adobe. I think if you just search Adobe Color, they have a website that kind of shows you colors that go well together. And if you pick one color, they'll give you a bunch of other colors that go with it. So
Oh,
that's a way
cool.
to limit your color palette. And even though they usually always suggest like 6 colors, I think 5 or 6 colors, but
Mhm.
you kind of want to pick from that. It's like, okay, I could find a t-shirt in one of these colors that, they suggest. And
Mhm.
then these other colors could go with it, but that would be one. But yeah, limit your color palette,
Cool.
but make a interesting color palette
Yeah.
is key.
I'll see if I can find that website, and I'll throw it in the show notes for you guys. All right, let's move into I think a really interesting topic: quality versus quantity. Um, because as we discussed before the show, a lot of print on demand sellers, myself included, we've gone the quantity route, and so we want to make as many designs as possible, for as cheap as possible, and put them on as many things as possible. Um, and there's an obvious advantage to that, because when you can be everywhere, people are going to eventually see your stuff. And even if it's not the greatest stuff, there's a certain percentage of people that are going to be attracted to it and probably buy it from you. So the idea behind that is be everywhere. But you have well, I'll actually tell a story. Yesterday, before I went to the event that I saw Andy at, I was actually putting together a list of, I had 200 professions, actor, artist, barista, et cetera, et cetera. And then I created like 100 different phrases. Okay. And so my idea is to put all of these phrases, or put the professions in all of these phrases. So, when you're done, you've got like 2,000. Is that 2,000? No, it's 20,000. You have 20,000 phrases that you can then put on all kinds of things. And so I had done it with one of them. So I had one phrase with 200 professions. And then I used Canva's bulk create. I found a really cool graphic. I tested it, made sure everything was going to fit. And I literally just hit go, and bam, I had 200 images, a PNG, right? The correct size for the print file that, for the company that I'm going to use to print these things. And all I have to do now is create the listings, which I'm going to do again with a spreadsheet, because that's how we do things. It's all bulk. So that's an example of quantity. You have a different perspective on
That
this whole
makes me
thing.
sick to my stomach.
I know. I was gonna say, are you
That's
cringing
so
right now,
like,
Andy?
oh, cringe. But like that's what you need to do for print on demand sometimes, right?
Mhm.
So you thrive in the quantity realm. I get bogged down in the quantity realm, and I get bogged down in quality, right?
Mhm.
Because people are constantly telling me, just put it out there, Andy. Like it doesn't have to be perfect.
It's
And so
good
my
enough.
own
Yeah.
skills sometimes of like, I can make this better. So my own skills are keeping me from putting out quantity, right?
Mhm.
Because I want quality. So somewhere in the middle, I feel like there could be some good um, balance of quantity versus quality. But for what you're doing is what you might find out is, oh, that thing is, I'm really getting traction in this one particular area, right? You were trying to get traction in a phrase rather than a niche, right? Like a profession. And so, but if you found out that profession you're getting a lot of traction in, then you may want to go into more quality of products within that niche. And so, and that's when you can start building what I work best in is building a brand, right?
Yeah.
And so instead of just building a one-off product, I'm interested in making quality brands, and so brands come with more quality than quantity. I feel like, a curated set of things that eventually you keep growing and putting out new things every year and things like that, or every season. But it's less about hitting just everything and finding ways to kind of like focus. So yeah, I need to loosen up on my quality, and maybe occasionally you or another print on demander needs to consider loosening up on quantity and start honing in on quality.
Yeah. I think this is, I was on a podcast, another podcast with a print on demand podcast, and they specifically do brand. And we had this same discussion, and I think, there are positives, there's pluses and minuses to both strategies, because with the way I've done it, you're probably going to get a sale relatively quickly. With a brand approach, you're going to have fewer designs, most likely, which means you have fewer products. Also, nobody necessarily knows your brand at the beginning. So there's a lot of marketing that has to go in to create awareness. If you're starting from scratch, of course. If you have a following already, it's a different story. But if you're starting from scratch, it's going to take a while to build a fan base, if you will, or a group of people that would potentially buy it. It's going to take a lot of marketing and probably even some ad dollars and things like that before you even make your first sale. The other side of that is that that brand is kind of infinitely scalable. If it catches on, if you do it the right way, you can continue to build and build and build and build with repeat customers, where the way that we've done it with the quantity, that's not a thing. Like, nobody comes to my store because, well, that's not true. It's very small percentage of people that will come back and buy something, that will remember the store. They just looked for the product. It had the funny thing on it. That was the perfect gift for that one occasion. And the next time they need a gift from an occasion, they're not coming back to me. They're coming to Amazon search bar. And if I happen to be in that search, I get it. But there's no, lifetime value of a customer for the most part with with selling in quantity on multiple platforms and all that stuff. So there's like this kind of balancing act between the two. And they're both very viable business opportunities. And you can make both of them work, but they're really kind of different. They're almost in the same industry. They're completely different. The way you go about those businesses.
I mean, you wouldn't have an individual website with all 20,000 of those options posted, but you can upload all 20 of those options into Amazon. And when somebody types in ballerina, and that was one of the professions, that your t-shirt, that one t-shirt that with that one phrase should show up, hopefully. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a different platform. It's like, they don't know that you have 20,000 versions of these.
Right. They don't know that they could have all these other different ballerina shirts that just have text on them either.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they'll see that, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. So I love quality, and that's
sure. Do you have any tips for making artwork really pop, for print on demand product? We were talking about, like, there are no color limitations, but you should have color limitations, or should make yourself have color limitations. Are there any other tips that you can think of to like make your product stand out?
Color was that one, like considering color and how it's used. And and the limitations of that. And then I think simplicity is usually always your friend in a lot of ways.
What do you mean by simplicity?
In the print on demand world, I feel like text seemed to work really well, and then like there's, just bold sans serif kind of fonts, block fonts are helpful. Or, so like going back to my fine art background and the elements of design, like from college days, like those were my favorite classes in college, taught by Mr. Bippis. Shout out to you, Mr. B. We talked about the elements of design. And so once I learned the elements of design, then I'm like, oh, well, I'm always wanting to use those to like manipulate the experience. So, just a flat line, it suggests rest, a vertical line suggests strength, a horizontal line suggests movement, and then with composition, you can balance out one big block of object up here with a group of objects down here. And so you start thinking about composition. And I don't think a lot of people think about composition too much with print on demand. Again, it's just like, oh, this is just going to go here. But like, how do you create tension, right? Like, how do you create, do you have an all black and white graphic with just a hit of red, right? It's just somewhere in the corner or something. And it's like, that creates interest or tension or like a focus. Those, I think, is the difference between, that's what I think make good design. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like print on demand and a lot of mugs and t-shirts, it isn't about a good design. It's just about like, do you have a good phrase, or theme? And so again, it's depends on what you're building. I know there's a lot of print on demand people out there who are wanting to build brands. There is a lot, and they use print on demand as that early stage, thing. But yeah, just consider, composition is great. Like instead of just having words like over maybe the top with like a cute little picture of a dog, right? Whatever it might say, like consider maybe making the words like larger and then the dog overlapping it, for instance, would be just, it's better composition versus like, arched lettering and then a graphic, so
yeah.
I feel like just figure out how do you, I've seen this done before. How can I do it differently? And so,
no, I think that's super interesting. The whole composition idea. Cause, I'm a creative person, I'm a musical background and all of that stuff, but I'm not necessarily creative when, I haven't studied the art side of my creativity. So I'm kind of like one of those people that I can go, oh, that's a really good design, or, oh, that's a really bad design, but I couldn't tell you why. And I think, as people who are graphic designers, I think they have kind of that benefit of understanding composition, understanding like why things are the way they are or should be, or, should be the way they should be when they're designing. And it will give them a potential leg up on, the competition, the guys like me who just, go, that looks good. All right, cool. It's done. I have no problem with the little curved thing with the dog in the middle. That looks good. Okay. But there is a better way to do it. And you're saying composition might be, a nice little YouTube rabbit hole for somebody to go down and just try to get a little bit of understanding of that as they're building their print on demand brand. Are there any other resources that you can think of?
What's that?
Any other resources that you can think of? Like, I mean, aside from just the YouTube thing, or maybe other things that they should include in their YouTube rabbit hole search?
I mean, the idea of composition, I mean, it's big in photography for sure. You're probably going to find, if you just Google composition and, you'd want to probably composition of design or composition for graphic design, you know, or even typography composition, right, would be some things to look into. But it's, those would be areas to start to dig into. But yeah, like when, you know, going back to kind of what we say, a lot of the platforms are for the search, you go onto Amazon, you search, you know, cute dogs, and then you still are in competition with other people who've made t-shirts of cute dogs. And so if you put a little thought into your composition, you could stand out because, that's breaks away from the norm of the half arch lettering with the little graphic, right, or whatever. So
totally.
So, yeah.
Well, speaking of great design, I don't feel like I can have a graphic designer on the channel without asking them a really tough, difficult question. And so here it goes, Andy. You know what it is. How do you see AI affecting the graphic design world?
It's not affecting it yet. It's going to affect it soon. I think it's coming fast. And both, I think the two areas of concern of professions is writing and design that AI seems to really be infiltrating off the bat. But just like in the writing, it's a starting place, but you still have to curate what's being done, and you kind of put a little life into it, put a human touch to it. And right now with graphic design, it depends on what it's being used for. There's some amazing stuff out there that are very like art focused, like AI generated stuff, but would never work for branding. Right. The AI generated branding stuff is pretty cheesy, pretty low quality. And it's just like, it might be like, oh, okay, I could see where I could use my professional skill and make that better. But I don't see it happening. It's just like, but like this very artistic, painterly kind of like graphic stuff. It doesn't work for a brand, but it could work for, you know, just a t-shirt or something like that. And, but all confession, like I've avoided it. I'm like this old dog, not wanting to learn new tricks. And so I haven't touched it, but I know it's infiltrating and we need to know how to use it. But implementation and use is still going to be a lot of where the person, you know, comes in and experience and stuff like that. So it's there. You gotta admit it's there, and
it ain't going anywhere. That's for sure.
Right. So I probably need to learn how to use it. One day I will. So.
Oh yeah. All right. So we have officially reached the point in the show where we like to ask you certain questions that we ask every guest on the show. We call this segment the magic question. So let's roll the bumper. And Disney has not come after us yet. And so knock on wood, we're good there. All right. So first magic question for you, Andy Zenz. Tell us about a time something happened in your business that felt like a complete and total failure.
Oh, I'm good at finding all the failures. That's
Aren't we all?
Sometimes I have like a mentor, business mentor now. And I'm like, I'm failing all this. And then he's like, let's just, cover everything you've done. I'm like, oh, wow, I've done a lot. So that in my business, that feels like a failure. I mean, my print on demand, efforts, I wanted, I remember it was years ago, like I wanted to get up a shop going, and one Thanksgiving I decided to do that. And the thing that worked the best for me was that my daughter, who was probably 12 at the time, was like, I'll do it with you, Dad. Like, I'm like, I just need somebody to do this with. I don't know. And so she sat with me, and over Thanksgiving break, we worked on uploading a Shopify site, linking a print on demand, and just having her there, like, to be like, what color should we print this on and stuff like that. It was just super fun, but it died. So I just couldn't put the time or probably my own design. I wanted it to be perfect or whatever. And, I lost the interest, or the demand was for other things. So I would say that's a big fail. And it's one that I want to grow again. So we need to probably talk more than we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would enjoy that. All right. So, here's another one. I'm going to save that one. Okay. So if you had to start all over and lost all your current contacts, what would you do first to build your business back?
Yeah, I'm sure there's things you can do online, and to get things going again. But I love personal networking. I love showing up. I just showed up to a networking event last week in the area. I tell people, you got to get out of your office. You got to be connecting with people. You got to be showing up to your niches and places that you want to be. So if you are building a brand, going back to like the cute dog stuff, show up with dog parts with your shirts and stuff like that, but whatever you're doing, you gotta be networking, and networking can be done in different ways, but connecting, like reaching out to people on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, and just you gotta, and I'm kind of in that stage again, because I had a full-time retainer for a couple of years. So I'm like, oh, I gotta connect with people again. So so it's networking and getting out. Like, no one else I'm not going to meet anybody else in my house. So you have to get out and put yourself out there and meet people, I think. So
cool. All right. Last one. And this is the crystal ball question. So we're going to put on our little turban, stare into the crystal ball. And Andy, what do you think the future of print on demand is? What does it look like?
I think it's hopeful. I mean, I think the next stage of print on demand is probably it can only get better, like better quality. Like, I would love to get, like I said, I would love to take a design for my iPad that I did with all the textures and stuff like that, and then put it onto a print on demand. But there's this glow, this haze around all the lines, and I haven't figured out. And so you have to just vectorize it, which then loses a lot of the texture a lot of the times, I feel like. So, but better quality, I think, is just going to happen. But I mean, like the stuff that people are making with music these days, everything is in their own studio, right? And I think print on demand, it's just going to be personal, printers. I think are going to be more accessible, I feel like, in the future, where you can just do your own printing. Whether people want to do that, it's nice that you can ship off a design and then have people print it and ship it. So, but I think it's sticking around. It's just, I hope better quality is just the future. More sublimated kind of stuff would be great. Print on demand sublimation versus, and maybe it's out there, maybe I don't know, but
there's a lot of products you can sublimate for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, true. There is sublimation print on demand. Yeah. So yeah, it's out there. It's just good stuff.
Okay. Well, cool. So we're going to wrap up. We're going to land the ship here. Before we do, why don't you tell people where they can find you and connect with you and, chat if they have other questions or want to get in touch with you? Yeah.
I mean, oh man. Well, I'm one of those shoe cobblers that makes great shoes, but none of my kids have shoes, kind of thing. So I have a website. It's, I haven't updated in a long time, robotsloveballoons.com. More updated, stuff is on Instagram, at Robots Love Balloons. And then you could reach out to me, DM me in Instagram or something like that. But just, I'll just give my personal email, I guess, just Andy Zenz, ZENZ @gmail. You can meet me. You can reach out to me and ask me any questions or whatever as well. So,
Cool.
So yeah.
I'll put all that in the show notes except for your email, because that would be weird.
Okay.
But yeah, guys, reach out to him. And Andy, are you on Facebook?
I am on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Not as Robots Love Balloons, but yeah.
Maybe I'll add you to our group too.
Okay.
Our Print on Demand Cast group too. Okay, cool. Well, I guess you just get to sit here and listen to me do kind of the ending thing. But first of all, thank you so much, Andy, for being a last minute guest and making this a lot more fun for me, at least. I hope it was fun for our listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, hopefully Josiah will be back with me next week. He'll be able to push buttons and it won't be so, I don't know, it'll have more fun things. I don't know. What do you want from me? But if you do like our show, please rate and review it on iTunes, or I guess Apple Podcasts, I guess they're calling it, or wherever else you get it. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, just all the usual suspects. We do have a Facebook group. If you go to printondemandcast.com/Facebook, it'll take you right there, /Instagram/YouTube. You can check all that stuff out. And then, of course, just printondemandcast.com. You can go there. You can sign up for our monthly newsletter and get a free annual design calendar, which will kind of forecast for you what designs you should be making for the specific events and seasons and holidays that are coming up. It'll just kind of keep you on track a little better. That's free if you sign up for our weekly newsletter, and you get an extra weekly dad joke in the newsletter. So, I mean, like win-win, right? So, and if you don't like social media, you can email us at info@printondemandcast.com. Love to get emails from you guys. We just had a mailbag episode last week answering some questions. So if you've got questions or just want to connect that way, you can do that as well. I think that may be it. I'm not sure. Andy, do you have any final words of inspiration or anything else that you'd like to say to the Print on Demand Cast metaverse?
It was just great to be here. Great to talk. I love brainstorming ideas. Just keep it up. Don't let your dreams die, and just keep trucking along, I think, So yeah.
Love it, man. Love it, man. Thanks for being on the show. And until next week, I'm Travis, and this is the Print on Demand Cast. We'll see ya.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.